Hey guys, it's Destiny, and in today's video, I wanted to talk about why Luocha is a must pull or is not a must pull. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. So as we know, Luocha is going to be one of the characters that is going to come in 1.1, and Luocha has a pretty unique healing kit where he can cleanse, he can also remove the buffs from enemies, he has his own Abyss Flower field, which will allow for, in my opinion, consistent healing, which he gains from stacks, and so on. Overall, this character has a lot of things that he can offer for a bunch of players, and if we were to go quickly over his kit for you guys, his skill allows him to heal an ally, and of course, with a trace, his skill will also be able to cleanse said ally. Another cool thing about his skill is once an ally is below a certain HP threshold, then an emergency heal will come in that does not use a skill point, which is very useful. As for his ultimate, it is an AoE damaging ultimate, and it also removes buffs from enemies. And his talent is where basically when he gets enough stacks of the Abyss Flower, which he gets stacks from using his skill in his ultimate, then he will create this field for a few turns against the enemy, and when the enemy is attacked by an ally, then they will recover HP. Overall is really good, and his technique will allow him to just begin the battle with this field. So overall, just as a quick sum up of his kit, I definitely have gone over his kits a little more in depth in other videos, but just for a quick sum up, that is what he does, which is really cool. Additionally, if you are enjoying this video so far, make sure to subscribe, and now let's carry on. Now that you know the basics of Luocha, what makes him a must pull or what makes him not a must pull? So for a lot of free-to-play players, they may be considering picking up this character due to the fact that he is a very good healer from the looks of it due to what he's able to do with his kit, as I've stated. Now, a thing to keep in mind is a lot of people are looking at him because they do not have a character like Gepard and Bailu, or they may just have Natasha and March. Natasha and March are really good characters, but people may feel that they may fall off in certain modes, such as Memory of Chaos. And a lot of people would possibly agree that Gepard and Bailu are really good for those modes. As someone who does have both of them, and I also use March, I'm not the biggest fan of Natasha personally, but it has nothing to do with being against Natasha, it's just I personally don't use her as much in comparison to my other characters that allow me to have sustainability. But I personally use Bailu, March, and Gepard all in Memory of Chaos because they allow me to have a bunch of sustainability in order to actually clear and get stars. So one may be wondering, or one may be looking at Luocha as a good option for Memory of Chaos and overall a good option for other game modes, as he's able to provide a lot of sustain based on how his kit looks. Of course, once he's here, we'll be able to see how good his healing is, but that may be a reason why a lot of players may be looking at Luocha. Personally, I do think he's actually like a really good option for free-to-play to look at due to what he's able to do. And being able to cleanse your allies is always important, as if you've played Simulated Universe World 5, not to say only Simulated Universe this matters, but for example, when you fight Kafka and she uses her domination on you, then essentially you'll really need that cleanse. Otherwise, your characters attack each other. And I'm sure in the future we'll have more characters that have very unique gimmicks like this, or more bosses rather, with unique gimmicks like this. So having a character that can cleanse your allies is very useful. Currently, there are a few characters that do this, some being March, some being Natasha, and also from the top of my head, Branya is also able to do it with her E. So overall, you do have options for cleansing, but when it comes to sustainability and being able to cleanse, your main contenders right there would be March and Natasha. So you may be wondering, if I have Natasha and March, why would I want Luocha? Well, Luocha is also able to remove buffs from the enemy, which essentially means that what Pela is able to do with her Impair, Luocha is also able to do, which is very good. So overall, it's just a really good skill kit, and really good for a lot of players to look into, because this type of character can be really good for those modes that may be very challenging for a lot to face. The only issue though I would see is if you already have a character like Bailu and Gepard, Luocha might actually not be too worth it for you, because you already have characters that provide a lot of sustain. Now, I did actually get a comment about this, and I just wanted to give you guys a brief summary of this comment because it did bring up a good point. that we're currently at the point where Memory of Chaos, some people are unlocking it, some people are not, but a lot of people are not actually able to get stars in Memory of Chaos, or they're not able to clear it, and their point essentially was that players, while they can be at that point, most players don't have enough built up characters to be able to actually clear Memory of Chaos. So as a result, they may be looking at Luocha as a way to make it easy, or make it so they feel like they can actually clear it. Now personally, I don't per se think you 100% need this character in order to beat Memory of Chaos. As I said, we do have other options, but for a free to play, and if you do not have your characters built up like March and Natasha, or you just don't feel like they're performing as well, they just can't do the job, they don't heal enough, shield enough, whatever it is, then Luocha's definitely a very good contender, because we likely aren't getting another healer for a good while, and while we may have one eventually, we don't really know when that's gonna happen. And of course, I don't really like looking at the L word, some of you know what that is, for knowing release dates for characters, because something like that can always change. But as for healers, not too sure. Now, we do know that there is a character by the name of Fu Xuan. I personally love Fu Xuan. She will be preservation. Not too sure what she does though, but that may also be a contender for a supportive character, but we don't actually know fully when Fu Xuan is coming out. Some have speculated in a few patches, whatever it may be, but it doesn't really matter, as if we're thinking about the now, Luocha is right there and he'll be really good for that. But if you are looking at a future character rather, that you may want to pull for instead, that can technically be an option as well. I think it just ultimately depends on your account, because I do agree with both of these points. You can wait for the future, but the problem is we don't know when these characters are exactly coming out, and if we are thinking long term, both of these arguments can be valid. But the only issue is, how long is it until we actually get another healer or another shielder that we can actually get through a banner? Not to say you can't get Japard or Bailu, but there's no way to actually guarantee that unless you do the 300 pull warp thing on the standard banner, which most players, especially free to play, will definitely have to take a while to get to that point. So I'm not really considering that in this type of conversation or debate, because of how long it will take to get to that point. So, looking at it from a long-term perspective, I personally do think the odds, or rather the validation to pull for Luocha, is definitely sound, and I definitely think that it is a good idea to pull him. Once again, yeah, we will be eventually getting healers. We will be eventually getting shielders, I'm sure, but there's just no way we wouldn't. And the only issue is really, when are we getting them? Not to say people who bring out that advice are not giving good advice. I do think it's good advice in the case of, like, maybe if you wait a bit, see what we get, cool. But the problem is, a lot of people really want to clear these modes. A lot of people want to actually be able to, you know, go through the harder content, have more sustainability, whatever it is. And even for long term, if we're thinking about it for a few months, if we hypothetically didn't get a healer or a shielder for a few months, then that would really suck for people who do skip out on Luocha, because now you just don't have that character readily available for you. Unless, of course, you know, your March and Natasha is really built up and you do believe they are fine and dandy to use, then it doesn't really matter to you. Or if you do get Bailu or Japard, it doesn't really affect you as much, since you already have your sustain that you're likely satisfied with. Of course, though, if you also like Luocha, that is another reason to pull, but at the end of the day, it's very, very dependent on your account. On some accounts, he's very much not worth it. Like, for example, for people who do have a Japard or Bailu, I feel like he's just not as worth it, because you could possibly go for another DPS character. You can even possibly go for Silverwolf, which Silverwolf will get her own video, by the way, because there are definitely cons and pros to her. But for this video here about Luocha, he is really good in my opinion. I definitely think he's a really, really good sustainable character. I think for long term, he's really good. I'm not sure about future proof wise, but I think long term, he'll be really good. But the only thing is, it just depends on where you stand. If you would rather wait for a different character to come out, then you can go ahead and do that. But if you are looking to possibly clear things easier now, and be able to get to those points now, I feel like Luocha is really good for that. And if they do end up switching the bosses or the things you fight in Memory of Chaos, that's fine as well, because you still would need sustain either way. Like, for example, I've been able to get stars in the early Memory of Chaos modes, and I'm telling you right now, I 100% needed sustain. I don't do enough damage to the point where I just breeze through everything and clear it in 2 hits. Unfortunately not. It just comes down to sustain is very, very important in this game, and at the end of the day, once again, it's your own decision what you do with your account. It just depends on your account. If you need Luocha and you feel like he'd be a really, really good option, I would 100% say go for it. His banner is also really good. We're getting a Yukong, we're getting Xing Shui, and we're also getting a Pela, which these are all pretty nice characters to have. Yukong looks like she'll be really, really good. I have heard that we will be able to get a free Yukong in 1.2, or if you were trying to get her a bit earlier and possibly get Eidolons on her, then pulling on that banner alongside for Luocha and also Yukong can be a really good option for you as well. I can only give my suggestions, which my recommendation is, if you do lack sustain on your account, then I would 100% say to go for him. However, if you have enough sustain and you want more possible damage or gimmicks, if you will, I think Silverwolf is pretty gimmicky at that. I think then Silverwolf might actually be better for you, which once again, I will be releasing a video talking about Silverwolf's pros and cons and so on. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about Luocha. I definitely see why some people are considering skipping him. I also definitely see why a lot of people are very gung-ho about this character, because this character is definitely really, really good to consider for your accounts because of what he provides. And of course, just let me know how you guys feel about it, and also, what is your favorite cereal? And of course, make sure to subscribe for more Star content from me. Leave a like, leave a comment, all of that good stuff. Just let me know how you guys feel about Luocha, if you're going for him or if you're not, and what you guys think about the debates, if it's worth it to wait or if it's not worth it to wait. I hope all of you, of course, have a nice one. Peace.